Hello and welcome, esports fans. We are back with the AG Weekly number 139, first week of the February qualifiers. I'm FBI Tugboat here with Mint Productions. Got some great casters, producer here, Jackie B producing away, Lebosco, and Necra casting. Necra, Lebosco, how are we doing today, guys?
Doing really good. Really excited for seeing Horizon Zephyr, a team that I actually just saw recently in the Winter Invitational, something else that is kind of going on around this time. So they're getting a lot of playing time in Overwatch. That's for sure, Nekara.
They are getting a lot of playing time, but let's not, be we gotta still be excited for GCU esports as well, because they're going to be Horizon Zephyr's opponents for today. But if Horizon Zephyr is going to play anything like they did for the Winter Invitational, they're gonna look pretty strong here. Can't say too much about GCU esports just because this, I believe, is one of the first times that we're seeing them at an Academy Gaming, especially one like this.
Without a doubt, too. And when you look at the roster for GCU, I mean, Grand Canyon University, I believe, is where they are as well. So they're in a pretty nice area at the very least. I believe that's Arizona where Grand Canyon U is. So not too bad. I think I've actually seen some commercials for their college. Funny enough.
Really?
Hmm.
How
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Grand Canyon, that
So
makes sense.
yeah. No. So it's a fairly well-known college. I believe that as far as them competing in traditional sports, I believe that they are an NAIA team, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me correctly, is the one thing. So I think that's one of the cool things here too, is they are a school that has some decent sports programs that go around as well, not just the esports.
Yeah, so definitely seen them in other, other venues, other sports, other exhibitions, whatnot. Be interesting to see if we saw any crossover names. Be hard to tell through gamer tags, but it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I doubt that. Not saying it isn't something that can happen, but it's definitely a possibility. I do know that it's a Christian university too, if I do remember. So that would
Hmm.
also explain part of why they're in the NAIA. NAIA, by the way, for those who may not be familiar with it, is sort of a different sort of organization. It's similar to the NCAA, but not quite
Hmm.
exactly.
Not
It's a
quite as
little
evil.
well, no, I didn't say that. I just
The
meant that
NCAA is just
it, it's just different in the way that it kind of goes about its business. They're not as strict about things, but it's still basically the same thing as the NCAA.
heard. Heard. I honestly did not know what you were talking about, so I appreciate that explanation.
It's called the National
NIAA.
NAIA, National Association of
NAA.
Intercollegiate Athletics.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, not quite as big as the NCAA, but it is something that does exist. So,
Heard.
the school that I went to in college was part of the NAIA too. So,
Where'd you go?
I know a little bit. It was called Judson University. It's a small school in Illinois that nobody needs to know about.
That that's fair. Also something I've never heard about. That's okay though. That's okay.
Which is more than okay too. You don't need to hear about it. That's the important thing to remember here. But back to this matchup that we have here for Horizon Zephyr. I mean, it's a lot of Overwatch here in the past couple of days. They're really, I guess, making a good push. Some of these names might be familiar for people from just different teams prior to this. Thespian is a team that I've known for a long time. A couple of the other teams, Spooty is a name that I've known through different iterations of different teams. It might even just be from Horizon Zephyr. My memory is the worst. So
Hmm.
that's the bad part. The good part is here for Horizon Zephyr is they got another tournament that they can try and run through and make maybe a little bit more of an opportunity to get their name out.
Yeah. Yes. Tournaments like this definitely a great way to get the old name out. As far as names, we've seen Horizon Zephyr here a few times. Necra, I think you've seen Grand Canyon University on here before, or with other things. I think you were talking about the Winter Invitational as well.
No, that was with Horizon Zephyr. So
Oh,
Labasco and I
okay.
just
Okay.
saw Horizon Zephyr through the Overwatch Winter Invitational, and I mean, there's just here's a player that you really want to look out for, and that is Morbid. Morbid got a fat 3K Lucio boop the last time that we watched them. So
Hmm.
I'd be excited to see whether or not they could do this again. GCU Esports, not super familiar with them just because we haven't seen him on the scene as of yet, but I'm hoping that they're going to surprise us and show us something completely unexpected.
Mm. Some 900 IQ name there with the delete Overwatch. It's the only solution.
Delete and start from scratch, right? That's the whole point. Just completely start everything over from the ground up, or it. I
Would
feel
it
like
be a
it's just
bad
kind of
thing?
I
Would
feel
it
like
be
it's
a
a
bad
play
thing?
on delete break,
Oh,
you know?
100%. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like the more delete blanks there are, the less and less they make sense.
Yes. Without a doubt, especially when you're trying to delete the entire game, then nothing makes sense anyways,
What
especially when
makes
you're playing
sense?
the game. So you
That's
know
a good
what?
thing.
It's kind of a good little meme.
It's an
It's
in meta
it
joke,
works out.
or meta within the meta, or something
Yeah,
like that. I don't know. It's deep.
exactly.
I'm
Trying to be galaxy brain with it.
There you go. Let's see. So these tonight will be the best of ones again. Is that correct?
Best of threes tonight.
Best of threes. Yeah, I guess other times we have had more teams will be best of threes tonight. Nepal first. Do we know what Horizon, for example, ran on other games like the Winter Invitational that you guys got to cast?
They've run a couple of different things. One of the main things we saw from them was we saw some goat style comps, but uh we saw some quad DPS lineups, I believe is the one thing that I remember from
Mm-hmm.
Horizon Zephyr too. So they have a couple of things in the bag that you could potentially see them pull out here on against Grand Canyon U. We did see them on a different map pool on their control map. It was a Busan. So Busan has kind of three different maps that are kind of a little bit different. Nepal's maps, I think, have a little bit more variety of options that you can kind of run on them. You can see some
Mm-hmm.
sort of if we go to Sanctum, you can see spammy comps that you see people trying to get people booped into that little pit right next to where the point is. There's a few more possibilities. So those quad DPS lineups could potentially happen, or some triple DPS. I think it really just kind of depends on what maps we're going to end up seeing out of Nepal. That I think really determines this more than anything. We could see some fair action here somewhere too.
We've seen a lot of Farah actually, so that's something that I'm super excited to see. There are better skyboxes for Farah on Shrine than I believe on Sanctum, but we have seen some Farah on Village as well because that is a viable strategy that we've seen so far. But we'll see.
I didn't mean Sanctum was where we would see the Farah. I should have been a little more clear with that. But yeah, for sure you could see it on Village or somewhere else. I think that the important thing as far as for Horizon Zephyr is just sort of managing how you want to do everything, and if you're getting goats from the other side, knowing when to switch if you're not beating that goats composition, because goats is still strong. It just is. It just is.
It just is. I mean, even with the patch that just came out, really doesn't seem like it's going to affect too much of the meta right now, but we'll see.
It definitely makes it where other compositions can be a
Traveling
possibility,
to Nepal.
and that I think is one of the nice things. And we are going to Village first, so we could see some Farah here right off of the bat.
Initiating match.
We might see some Farah. I don't think we will though. I think that a lot of teams are starting to continue or like kind of continuing to run that chase down comp. Reaper seeing a little bit more play now because he is a little bit better, but not to the point of being able to dismantle a goat's composition
Yeah.
quite yet. But we do see him paired with that Mei often. And then you've got the Lucio to
Ready
speed
for
people
battle.
around. And I called it. What did I tell you? GCU Esports coming out with that Mei and that Reaper.
Well, they're showing it right now. There's still 20 seconds. They could just be throwing the great debate. Delete OW might have deleted the game. Hasn't decided to pick a character yet, so we don't know what they're going to do. But on the other side, it seems pretty clear that we're going to get a triple DPS composition coming out from the team in Horizon Zephyr.
Yeah, Horizon Zephyr is going to show you that Farah that you were talking about, so I'm really excited to see that. But also Spooty on the Junkrat. That's not a hero that we see super often anymore when we talk about team composition. So very interesting triple DPS coming out from Horizon Zephyr. Wondering if whether or not they're going to be able to out damage the just high sustain that GCU Esports has.
Well, I don't know if you like the taste of spam or not, but that's what you're going to get a lot of from Horizon Zephyr with a Junkrat and a Farah, and you're going to get from either side. So the Legend trying to deal with that on the Reaper, not going to work out too well. Those shotguns really don't have good of a range. They do have control of the point here at the beginning, so Horizon Zephyr have to make their way onto this point. Clutch, though, is able to get a rocket on a Ninja Cat, so it's a pretty good start for them. They still need to work their way in. Spooty throws the mine into the lead OW, and they'll slowly be able to work their way in. They do lose Clutch in the meantime, but they might be able to take care of this without that Farah. The one thing here, too, is they haven't been able to res it just yet. Now with a few more players going down, the res comes in. They give up some percentage here, but now they just have a Reaper to take care of, and they'll get the flip to come over.
So that's the beautiful thing about that triple DPS composition with the Pharah and the Junkrat. You have to play it very, very patiently, and you get rewarded for that. You're going to see Horizon Zephyr reaping those rewards now. Clutch with the Pharah Barrage. Excellent that they were able to get that res off so that they have that high-value ultimate up. They're going to have the Valkyrie as well, so you're going to see a lot of ultimates coming online for Horizon Zephyr. On the side of GCU Esports, though, we are going to see some swaps going over to a Super McCree comp. I guess they don't think that main Reaper was working.
Yes, speaking of reaping, they weren't reaping benefits from Reaper, but reaping plenty of benefits on the Pharah is Clutch with the triple kills. So, one ultimate used, you keep this point. You already passed the 28% that was built up for GCU, and you have plenty of ultimates to use coming up.
You do have plenty of ultimates to utilize. You didn't even need the Mercy Valkyrie. So at this point, Horizon Zephyr really wants to be able to utilize that Riptire, see if they can get some initial picks in order to snowball the rest of the team fight. Maybe save that Valkyrie either to have sustain at the end of a long team fight, or just, but let's see what this Tire does.
Well, the tire from Spooty will not be able to find any paydirt. Spotting that out was the McCree and Sodi, so they don't have to worry about that one. But now they have to push their way through this spam, and Natrix, who's just displacing characters on this Wrecking Ball. So now Bob coming in as well, stops right in the middle of this team. Quickly eliminated, though. Very good job to focus on the Bob and take him out. Natrix now putting in some damage. Has to try and run away, but Whiskers is so high charge and now has a grab that can turn this around. Potentially has to look for an opportunity to use it, though. But they're getting plenty of the limbs without the ultimates and get the switch here. The one thing about this triple DPS comp is they're kind of split up. They really don't have the best point presence. They lose this point, but they built up to 88%.
They have built up to 88%. Now that's one fight territory. GCU Esports, though, looking to hold on to this point with that Graviton Surge. Whiskers did so much work there, Labasco, just hunting down the members of Horizon Zephyr. But, they're going to see a swap now. They say, hey, I don't think the triple DPS is really going to work out the way that we want it to with who we have. Let's switch over to the Sombra and the Genji. Let's get this Cyber Ninja online.
So, still triple DPS, just a little bit of change in variety, and Sinker finding delete OW at the beginning is a lot of damage and utility gone, and of course healing from the Zenyatta. So they have their 6v5 advantage, still have to use that to theirs though and find that next target. They do have the Riptire coming out here too, and it's a triple kill! Massive from Spooty, and now they go into the corner and take down the player there, and now they will get this flip back over, building up to 90%. Desperation mode coming for GCU.
Oh my gosh, that Tire might have just won Horizon Zephyr this point. They didn't even need the Cyber Ninja. They just needed to have a 3k Tire.
They have so many ults and they're not going to get back in time. So not using ults, GCU, the Achilles heel for them is that they will go down 1-0 here, Nekra. But of course you have to win 2 maps on Control to have the map win. So there's still life here for GCU.
There is a lot of life here. GCU was able to take that point back, and there's something to be said about it. But honestly, we're in this meta right now where you have to be able to respond to what is coming out from the other team, and I just don't think GCU Esports quite had the response that they needed. I liked the Super McCree, but I think that they would have done a little bit better with a dive. Wondering whether or not that's in their pocket as one of their strong suits here. But we're going to see a mirrored composition here. This is a mirror match. It's Zen Ryan Goats on this point.
Talk about a point where it is a little bit more difficult for DPS to sort of do what they do best, but Goats v Goats is always an interesting matchup, especially when you see how stuns come out and everything like that. The Brigitte and the Reinhardt running into each other. Natrix able to stay alive, and Thespian will eliminate Pop. Whiskers as well falling to the Fire Strike, and this is going to be controlled quickly by Horizon Zephyr.
Horizon Zephyr does have control of this point, but it's not before GCU Esports is able to get a little bit of revenge, but that's going to feel bad. That is a pinata if I have ever seen one.
Yes, massive pin. Nothing that Delete OW could do. Might need to delete the game after that pin. Probably not feeling great on that Zen. It's an Omnic that is a little bit fragile, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Gonna be a fragile boy, but they're gonna wait for that one before they try to push in. But Horizon Zephyr, after winning that last fight, is absolutely up in ultimate economy right now.
Still don't have any ultimates online, and as I say, that rally comes up for the Brigitte and Clutch, so they now have the extra armor to fight into this and aggress a little bit more. Rally coming out on the other end from the Legend. Self-destruct into this small room, and then the Earth Shatter turns into a quintuple kill!
What? What is this? Horizon Zephyr is getting all of the value in the world right now. Spooty is just so many bodies from all of the ultimates, and this stagger right now onto Whiskers is the saddest stagger I have ever seen. That's gonna eat 20% off the clock for Horizon Zephyr before GCU Esports is able to touch with that Diva back in mech. And Horizon Zephyr just continuously building up charge, getting aggressive here because they know that Diva's not there to delete that damage.
Matrix has to be careful, though. Don't want to take damage too just easily from that team that can poke at you, because there is a little bit of high ground for them to have players not get swung into by that cleaving hammer. So have to back up a little bit, give a little bit of space, but they're still in control here at 80% for Horizon Zephyr. Pushing onto the point now is Pop. The grab comes out, but is eaten by Spooty, so no Graviton Surge coming for GCU. Have the Earth Shatter used as well. Will find one, but you have the sound barrier out to keep everybody alive. The grab is huge on the other end, and this is just perfect for Horizon Zephyr, up to 97%. Just as lonely Zenyatta and Azaria on the point to deal with, and now Pop will just have to try and come back, but that's not going to be enough, as it'll be a win here for Horizon Zephyr on this map, and it'll be 1-0 in favor of them.
Ooh, what a good series so far. I mean, GCU Esports looked like they had a fighting chance on that first map, but Spooty hitting those massive bombs and massive tires to take people out. Let's watch this one more time.
This was an awesome play, too. I mean, the Rhine turns easy to get the shatter onto that one. You have the self-destruct coming through. Only a quintuple, though, unfortunately. So, you know, maybe we critique Spooty that way, saying you only got 5, you couldn't get 6.
Yeah, gotta clean up that last kill in order to make it astounding. But we're going to be moving into the next map now, and as we're looking at the bracket here, we are already in the quarterfinals because there are only 8 teams that are part of this first qualifier for February. So we do have the choice of an escort map next. It will be Route 66 or Gibraltar, and it does look like they might pick Route 66 here.
When we talk about Route 66, it is a map where we have seen from Zephyr that they can play some DPS compositions potentially. It's one thing that we know, and we've already seen them run plenty of DPS compositions here just in the tonight. So we saw triple DPS, we saw some Ashe, we saw some we've seen a variety of DPS characters already. I think anybody watching has to be happy with the fact that you're not just seeing pure goats. We did see goats though too. So if you love goats, you got that as well. We're getting the whole smorgasbord of the compositions that we could potentially be seeing here.
Yeah, there's so many compositions that we might be able to see, but you're right. We've seen a lot of DPS coming out from Horizon, and I think that GCU just like they're just warming up. I think this is what that last map was a warm up map for them. They're gonna be getting into their stride very soon, so I'm excited to see like what's going to happen on Route 66.
I think that's a good way to look at it regardless, because you don't want to think that that is the best of your ability that you played in that game. And I don't think that is. I think that they're a little bit better players than that. But Horizon Zephyr has just looked really good here. They're going to be on defense to start as well for Horizon Zephyr. So we're going to see how they decide that they want to defend this first point of Route 66. We know this is Sombra's playground, Necrot. Do you think, we already saw Sinker play a little bit of Sombra a little bit earlier in this game? Should we expect to see it again?
I don't know. I feel like on defense, especially if we're going to see Horizon Zephyr starting out there, you see a lot of long range damage. So I would expect to see maybe the triple DPS composition that we saw before, and that's exactly what we're going to see. We're going to see the Ferret, the Hanzo, the Widowmaker, not exactly like what we saw, but you do want to get that long range damage. Try to get those angles because you're trying to stop them in their tracks, right? You don't want them passing go. You don't want them collecting $200. And now GCU Esports though needs to be able to try to fight back. Maybe they're gonna do it with a couple of DPS in their pocket too.
Well, they're going to hope that they have a get out of jail free card at the very least, so that way they can try and pass go. I think that's their plan. Regardless, it looks like they're going to show us. I don't think they're going to do the Torb, and they're not. They're going to do a quad DPS composition, it looks like here. So we get to see triple DPS versus quad DPS. If you would want to see DPS characters, you're seeing it tonight.
Oh my gosh, DPS on DPS, and this is what I love about the new patch right now. So take a look at this Tracer action though.
Delete OW finding one, but Natrix is able to come back. The only thing is they are already down 2 for the side of Horizon Zephyr. The Legend winning that battle in the sky. So, you know, you lost a couple of DPS. Now you have to figure out how you want to try and regroup here. You still have your Hanzo. That's available, so there's still a chance to maybe turn this into something on the side of Horizon Zephyr, especially because Natrix is finding eliminations on this Wrecking Ball, but not quite enough. But you do at least stall things out, at least for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, though, Horizon Zephyr just had the respawns. Excuse me, GCU Esports has the respawns. They're the red team. We did swap sides for this map, but GCU Esports is just going to continue to roll this cart. Sodi was able to get a lot of cart movement on just kind of sitting lonely on the cart there while the rest of the team moved forward and got aggressive. They're going to be rewarded for that. They have ultimates coming online soon, but what if Spooty's Dragons are going to throw? Ooh.
They lose, though, one at the beginning, but Sodi and the Legend don't care. They're just sitting back and finding picks from the back line, so it doesn't even matter that Horizon Zephyr here had an advantage early on. Barrage will ensure that they're going to cap this first point eventually. Oh, the Dragon Strike still gets 2, though. They couldn't avoid it. Doesn't matter. They'll still get the point.
I don't think they knew where that was coming from. So Natrix is now going to be able to have some time to dance around this cart with the bubble, and reinforcements are coming in for Horizon Zephyr right now just to stall this out.
There's a little bit of a weird sound bug, I think, too, because I didn't hear it either. They do use the Dragon Blade here by Whisker, so that will force out the Transcendence. Only problem is Thespian, it's so much healing that the Blade without Nano Boost can't really do much. Sinker will find the Pulse Bomb after the Blade ends anyway, so now you're down and having to regroup. So this what looked like it was an assured capture is not anymore, Nekra.
No, and that's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, like, GCU Esports got so unlucky not paying attention to where those dragons were coming from, because the Legend got taken out, and that was just bodies that weren't able to defend the point from the respawns coming in from Horizon Zephyr. So now, Horizon looking to be in a pretty good defensible position. Gotta watch out for those mines, though.
Well, you said look out for the mines. It didn't work out well. 2 players getting eliminated. Well, 1 in the mines, 1 just to pop. So the Wrecking Ball, this quad DPS lineup is still able to find things, but because there's still DPS players left and a Diva, there's still an opportunity to keep this defense going, at least for the moment. But Spooty quickly popped out of Mex, and now you finally get it completed. So a little bit of extra time ends up being taken off for GCU.
It was actually a significant amount of time. So Horizon Zephyr's efforts to be able to stall out time on this cart absolutely paid off here. But Thespian going down means that Horizon Zephyr's really going to need to take some time to regroup before they try to attack this again. Hopefully Sinker's not going to get punished by trying to go deep into the back line there.
It's a little bit different, too, when you're talking about quad and triple DPS lineups. You have a lot of skirmishes that end up happening. You don't have the team fights that you're used to seeing with GOAT. So things are kind of spread out all throughout the map, because you have Sinker who can flank from one angle, you have the Sombra of Clutch on another, and then you have Whiskers going in with the Dragon Blade onto the back line into Thespian and Morbid. So you have your 2 support players down, and now you have the rest of those DPS players collapsing on who's left. But while that's happening on the cart, your backline's being decimated by a Primal Raging Winston and Sinker on the Tracer. So that is what's happening here. It's similar to how Dive can happen, but it's a little bit more spread out. So the stall is happening even though winning that fight was the team in GCU. They finally get the cart rolling again, but they lose another minute.
They do lose another minute, and this is going to be a crucial rounding of the turn here for that cart on GCU Esports. Horizon Zephyr is going to be able to come in and touch again, and they've got a lot to do it. That EMP looking really strong here, but they're going to have to be able to get out of the door. The Legend looking to pop that barrage, but oh my goodness!
Sinker at the beginning, finding the Legend out of the sky. Sinker into Pop as well, downing them, looking for the Genji next. Oh, but the Mercy there in time, and Ninja Cat with those cat-like speed reflexes, but not quick enough to get away from Thespian and the Primal, or not the Primal Raging Winston, but the Goomba Stomping Winston in Matrix. So now they have to regroup finally for GCU, but the cart's starting to move backwards, and now is the problem for them. And now they'll use wall hacks to know where everybody's situated on the side of Horizon Zephyr.
Well, GCU Esports is just like when Legend went down, the damage that they were able to do to Horizon Zephyr definitely came out. But like, oh my god, they're fighting everywhere.
It's happening so quick too. The dive coming through, and they've already eliminated 2 of those supports again, so no supports available for Horizon Zephyr. That cart's going to start moving again. Natrix is trying to escape with his life if he possibly can, and he barely does, but he needs some healing to come through. Ooh, the hack onto Pop, so now they can try re-aggressing back in with the sound barrier and maybe get a defense to hold. Jumping in, looking for a target was Natrix, and now you have the EMP committed to this fight. Doesn't find the barrage from Legend, and Legend's able to down Natrix. Booty with the double kill with the self-destruct, so the defense still with a chance here to stabilize again. Pop hacked again on this wrecking ball, and now chased out from inside the Deadlock propane and propane accessories was Whiskers, and then fell. Little throw to hang kill there with that name.
Yeah, so now GCU Esports, like, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but their composition just isn't working against the dive coming out from Horizon Zephyr. I want to break that down a little bit later, but let's see whether or not Whiskers is able to get this blade off.
Sinker, though, at the beginning, eliminating Whiskers so they don't have the Dragon Blade in here for this fight. Pop the one on the cart now, trying to stall it out for as long as possible. Natrix jumping into the air to make sure nobody else gets hit by that Pulse Bomb, and now Whiskers back into the fight, throws out the Dragon Blade. Not finding anybody yet, but with the help of Delete, OW eliminates Thespian, so already down to 1. Felling another, though, is Sinker to try and get this back for the defense. They do have the spawners that'll come back quicker for them, but Legend in the air, still dealing out all this with that Pocket Mercy. And it looks like it's going to be enough. Clutch the only one left alive, and that cart's just about to hit that next check mark.
Oh my goodness, that is just like a last minute point cap if I've ever seen one from GCU Esports. Like, it looked like at that moment when Whiskers went down with the Dragon Blade in their pocket that they were not going to be able to take that point just because it was such a high value ultimate. But now they look confident. They look like they're going to be able to do some work here. I don't think that this quadruple DPS is quite going to be as effective as they think it will on this 3rd point. I would expect both of these teams to kind of switch over to a more brawly composition like what Horizon Zephyr switched over to, which is that Super McCree comp.
Well, the Legend made a switch, but it was to another DPS character. This time it's going to be the Pharah. Have the Dynamite get eaten at the beginning. Clutch coming through on that Brigitte along with Sinker with 2 quick limbs, and now they push in onto the rest of the players left alive, just bullying the Legend, and now Ninja Cat has to try and be a ninja to avoid all of that damage, especially with that Discord Orb bomb that gets switched over now to Pop and is thrown down. 27 seconds left to go. They have to regroup.
They do have to regroup, and they're gonna have to do it fast because of how little time is left on the clock. And now you're seeing them make the swaps, but it might be too late, Lavasco. They should have done this sooner. Now, I think you're gonna see why here.
Have the High Noon out here at the start. Self-destruct coming in through 2. Try to use the charge to get the Reinhardt out of the way. Didn't work, but Sinker with the Deadeye follow-up is still enough to give them the early advantage. Now it's up to Pop, Whiskers, and Delito W to try and turn this around, but Delito W hit by that shatter. Nobody can get onto the cart, and you have, your win condition for Horizon Zephyr.
Score 0-2. Switching sides.
Switching sides now, Horizon Zephyr going to be up to bat against GCU Esports. And now here is where I want to kind of break down why I think GCU Esports ended up getting stopped on the third point. They were running unideal compositions most of second point and third point into what Horizon Zephyr was running. They just didn't respond fast enough to that. So, like, I would have swapped off the quadruple DPS when you were going into a dive composition, and I would have swapped sooner to that 3-3 composition, knowing that you were entering the third point just at all, especially because you were seeing Horizon Zephyr come out with a Super McCree. So it just would have
Ready
worked
for
out a little
battle.
bit better. But hey, now they get it's a brand new round, so anything is possible. Going to be seeing some more. What is this?
More
Aha,
DPS.
more yeah, more quadruple DPS. I at first saw like a Hammond and 4 and 5 DPS, and I'm like, what is this?
I mean, I've seen 5 DPS before. If anybody's familiar with Against the Grain,
Yeah,
they've run a 5 DPS comp in Open Division and won with it. So
they did.
it is a possibility. They also did it in Tournament of Future Champions, a little bit different with that because there's bans and protects, but they did it there too, and it works. So not that it's out of the realm of possibility, but you are seeing quad DPS defensively again here from GCU.
Stop the payload.
That's true, and they're going to be setting up on that high ground there, just looking for an early contest here. But Horizon Zephyr is going to be moving that cart with an Orisa. Very interesting composition here. I don't usually see Orisa with the quadruple DPS because she just isn't mobile, so you don't really have a whole lot of support there. But Sinker with a quick opening pick.
Well, she's the only one who really will play on the cart with this composition because everybody else is a DPS player, and Sinker is just popping off on the Widowmaker at the start. So they've already gained a clear advantage with the cart just cruising around that first corner and now looking to get around the gas station in Big Earls.
Ooh, that's going to be a pretty fast point one take. GCU Esports is going to have some time, though, to be able to contest and get back, but they don't have a whole lot to be able to do that with. Sinker coming up on the Widow sites just because of how much work they've been putting out there. GCU Esports just looking for an opportunity to touch this card.
Well, has to be in that Widow battle as well. Has a little bit of help, but doesn't care. They hit the headshot for Sinker. Doesn't even matter that the damage was done by anyone else, and they're winning the fight on the cart with Natrix and Spooty, and Sinker's still just supporting from that back line on that Widowmaker and continuing to put in damage. They will have a quick first point take, 5 minutes to try and go through this second point.
I hope we got this, but Natrix ended up doing a beautiful Orisa pull, which allowed Spooty and Sinker to just shoot into it. Took out 2 targets on GCU Esports to be able to cap that point. And now, you know, hey, Horizon Zephyr is getting very aggressive here. There's a lot of fighting happening all over.
Very aggressive, and it doesn't even matter that you're trying to escape if you're Ninja Cat. Oh, but bad positioning from Sinker will get the Widowmaker caught out. So now they probably won't be able to get that res in. They will use, it looks like they're going to use their Valkyrie here. Morbid was maybe thinking about going for that res, but it's a little bit too dangerous of one to try and do is the only thing. So the card's going to continue to move regardless, as the offense is just, it doesn't matter that they lost their Widow because they still have their Hanzo and Spooty. As they say that, though, he loses his life and his head thanks to this Widowmaker Sodi.
Wow, Sodi's finally getting the revenge that they want to, and just going to allow them to stop the aggression coming out from Horizon Zephyr. So this is just GCU Esports' point to take at the moment. They're going to hold strong here, and this is the position that they want to be in now. They can get Sodi set up on the high ground with Legend, and they'll be able to start raining in some long-range damage. But they're just punishing these respawns right now from Horizon Zephyr.
Man, 3:40 on the clock here now, too, for the side of Horizon Zephyr. So still plenty of time to try and get through that next point. They have to just complete this regroup and then figure out how they want to attack. Sinker's made the switch, by the way, over to the Tracer here instead to maybe try and contest the Widowmaker and Sodi, who has been popping off here as of late. But the one thing I think to consider here as well is you still have plenty of ultimates, especially that EMP that can just be the great equalizer, regardless of what's on the other side. But the Legend on the Ashe throwing out the Bob, and Bob just completely down Spooty. Nothing he could do.
No, absolutely nothing. That Bob landed in the right place at the right time and absolutely did something for the defense of GCU Esports. And now Horizon Zephyr is sitting at less than 3 minutes. That's 2 minutes already the GCU Esports was able to eat off of the clock. Now we're going to see some switches. Natrix deciding to go over to the Hammond, which we've seen them do a lot of work on before. So we'll see how they utilize the mobility of that Hammond to try to bully some of GCU Esports backline.
That is the goal, of course, when you have that swap come out. Also have to try and deal with Pop, who's going to go in on your back line. They do have a Diva for this composition as well, so that's one of the other switches that have happened. Out comes the EMP. Delito W is able to take out Thespian in the meantime, though, who is now on that Sombra, so not quite much to be done there. Those mines you have to try and work around as well for Horizon Zephyr. It's not going well here, but they're getting out some ultimates. Now they just have to deal with Whisker's ult, and they have a barrage and a pulse bomb that are win conditions for them if they can hit a few with those ultimates, especially for the fact that you don't have any defensive ultimates on the other side, Nick.
No, you don't have any defensive ultimates, but oh my gosh, we're not even going to see them use that. Look at the almost full swap they're doing on the side of Horizon Zephyr. Natrix going over to the Winston. We're going to see Spooty stay on that Diva and Sombra now. I guess Clutch really likes playing that Sombra, or this team likes playing around Sombra. I actually like Sombra and Tracer together as dive heroes, so we'll see how this works.
Well, they have to deal with Whiskers, who dashes through Morbid at the beginning, and then will slice through Natrix. So there's 2 picks, though, on the other end. So even though they don't have any ultimates, the hack onto Pop is giving them a chance to maybe turn this around. Spooty very careful there to not lose mech. Ends up doing it anyways, but is on the cart, and it will be able to advance it a very small amount. But the defense still holding. They still have 1 ultimate in their back pocket, but again, Sinker's still looking for an opportunity for that pulse bomb to turn this around.
So I think I called it, Labasco. I think the GCU Esports just needed a map to warm up. We're seeing them hit their stride here on this defense of Route 66.
Still have to win this, though. There's still 47 seconds left to go for that cart to maybe get to that second point and give an opportunity for Horizon Zephyr to get the map win. You have Sodi on the high ground that they're going to have to try and dislodge. Have to be careful, too, as out comes the pulse bomb, and it's a double kill onto Whiskers and Pop, so that is huge from Sinker. Gives them a win condition now, makes it 6v4. Have some ultimates left available for the Legend and others, but you have to be able to use them in an area where it's going to get value. Thespian has the coalescence. Spooty throws the self-destruct just to make sure that they keep their mech. Sodi, in the meantime, will eliminate Clutch and Natrix, so they're starting to lose important characters. Bob on the cart, too, is making this super difficult, and now you have Pop coming back in after being taken down by that pulse bomb, and then a pulse bomb of their own will get the mech of Spooty. Overtime starts. Only one left is Thespian, but Thespian's not going to be able to keep this one going. EMP in desperation as players are starting to come back. Natrix and Clutch have to be huge here. Not getting caught in that, unfortunately, was the Genji, who can pop the Dragon Blade and get the victory for the side of Grand Canyon U. Morbid, the only one left alive, just stalling for as long as possible on this Lucio. Has to just tiptoe around mines is the only problem and can't do it. As the overtime meter starts to go, Spooty back in with the Wrecking Ball. Not gonna be enough. The win goes to Grand Canyon U. And now we go to a third and final map to find a winner, Necro.
Ooh, this match is getting spicy, and I'm super excited to see GCU Esports hit their stride here. Sodi absolutely deserves this play of the game. Look at how many heads they were able to click and how many people they were able to eliminate in order to keep this defense so strong. That's just absurd. I love it. It's like when those shots line up perfectly and you've got the reflexes to be able to get them. Ugh, beautiful.
It's a good thing. It's fun to see Widowmakers pop off. There's no doubt about that. And we saw 2 good Widowmakers on either side. The one question I guess I have here while we're waiting for a third map to be selected, Necra, is when you have a Widowmaker who's going off like that, and obviously that wasn't the only reason why Grand Canyon U won. It felt like Horizon Zephyr never really figured out what composition they really wanted to run on second point. How do you best deal with what was happening, especially with the fact that you had a Widowmaker who was putting so much pressure on you?
I think that Horizon Zephyr just didn't swap as quickly as they needed to. So like if you are going to have a Widowmaker that is that consistently good, take them out with a dive composition, and they didn't switch to it fast enough. We saw them finally kind of figure it out when we saw them swap 4 of their players over to the Winston, the Sombra, the Moira, and I can't remember the fourth one to save my life. Um, but that was when they started to figure out Sodi's an issue. We need to be able to dive them, how or like take them out of the fight. How are we going to do that? And that was with that dive comp.
And one of the things I think that kind of illustrates why those triples, quad DPS compositions can work pretty well, though, too, is so, okay, you're going to try and dive the Widowmaker. Well, the Legend was doing so well on Ashe and building up these bobs so incredibly quick. So you try to stop the Ashe or the Widowmaker. One of them is going to still have opportunities, especially because in a dive comp, you can't protect everybody. So that was part of the problem. They couldn't really focus anybody down quick enough, and then they were just left in a spot where their back line is exposed and they couldn't do everything. Is it better sometimes to just say, you know what, let's go beef, let's make them have to really work for the eliminations that they're going to get, and we're going to be just a blob, a mass that they're going to have to try and dislodge?
Yep, absolutely. So we're gonna see whether or not that strategy might be seen as well on Kings Row. But that's gonna be our third map of the night. It is a hybrid for the third and final choice for top 8. And you get a choice between Kings Row and Numbani. Does not surprise me at all that Kings Row is gonna be the one that's chosen, and it wouldn't surprise me if Kings Row is the map that we see as the third one every single time because it's just so much better.
Yeah, Scrims Row's a great. I mean, Kings Row's a great map for sure. It's definitely a map that both of these teams will have plenty of time on, I'm sure, as well. Although maybe not as much time as they usually would have, just because it was not an open division map. But I think everybody's okay to see what some consider the best map of the game. It's definitely a great map, a lot of
Now
variety that could be
entering
played here, but this is a
King's
map,
Row.
especially First Point, that has in recent memory been dominated by
Initiating
goats. Is
match.
Mhm.
that the expectation we should have here? Or do you think that because we haven't seen too much goats from these teams, we're going to see something that's non goats regardless?
I think that this is just a Reinhardt map. It always has been, and it's just because of the tight street phase that you have for point 2 of King's Row. It's just too good to be able to block most of the damage incoming from the Reinhardt shield because it basically takes up the width of that payload track. So you may as well run the Reinhardt.
Ready for battle.
Seeing it on at least Horizon Zephyr so far uh, does not. They switched again. See it at least on the defense for GCU esports so far. It really doesn't
Attackers
surprise me,
incoming in
just
30
Zen
because of
goats,
the
yeah.
fact that I mean you have to like. Unfortunately, the advantage does go to Horizon Zephyr with their respawns being right there. You are able to kind of adapt or try out maybe a quadruple DPS to try to out damage the goat's composition, but if you pick goats first, you basically force the other team
5,
to respond to
4,
that. And
3,
usually the response
2,
is, well, we have to
1.
switch, and then you're down an ultimate
Attackers
economy.
incoming.
So
Well,
we'll see what happens as
Defend
they roll
objective
out, but
A.
they're both running Zenrine goats, so
so they don't have to worry about maybe
no.
making any switches on either side. They're just going to roll with it here right into the beginning. Natrix walking towards that point, and they'll start to meet here in just a second. No bubbles have been used yet for either of these. Zarya's being very patient. First one will be used there from Sinker to build up a little bit of charge. Barrier already down from Natrix, though, so has to be careful. Gets a bubble of his own, but then gets stunned out. Has to put that shield back up, but it's actually the defensive team who's been taking more damage. And there's the first player falling. Sinker's able to take out the Zarya and then pop. So both of the tanks down, the linchpins for this GOAT's composition, and they'll have a super quick take here on this attack.
Ooh, I mean, once your Lucio goes down, it's kind of game over. Like you just don't have the same ability to reposition as what the enemy team is going to have. So like GCU Esports lost Ninja Cat pretty early on in that fight, and it meant that they didn't have the speed on, they didn't have the AOE healing, and Horizon Zephyr was able to just kind of outmatch and out aggro. So you're gonna see Horizon Zephyr moving up to that first corner to try to meet the defense right now. Got to back up super quickly, though.
Well, they have the perfect grab thrown onto that corner area. Doesn't get eaten by the Diva. Not enough damage through it because of the use of the Transcendence, but it allows for now the counter to come in with that Earth Shatter by Natrix, and he charges into the Legend. So 6v5, you can still win this in a Ghost composition because you have your important tanks, but as I say, that pop will fall. So now no main tank to hold your team up. Sodi is in a terrible position and will quickly be eliminated by Sinker. They crumble again on this GOATS composition, but they do have some ultimates that have been built up is the good thing, Necra, for GCU.
Yeah, but Horizon Zephyr's already starting to utilize theirs, so they're getting on the rotation that they need to. The only thing that they don't have that they really wish that they did was that Zarya Graviton, and they're coming up on it fast to be able to pair it with the Diva Bomb.
Sinker has built up another grab, throws it out immediately after getting it, catches in the Reinhardt, and Delete OW gets caught in the self-destruct, so advantage again, and the grab is eaten for by Spooty again, so self-destruct does catch one for Whiskers and Morbid, but it doesn't matter. Payload has already gotten through this Streets phase.
Wow, I mean, that's the second grab tonight that Spooty has eaten. Spooty's getting so much value on the side of Horizon Zephyr right now. It's kind of insane. But GCU Esports just kind of needs to take a deep breath right now and look at what they're going against. They were so expensive on that defense, though. Horizon Zephyr has all the tools in the world to be able to roll this into the end of point 3.
Earth Shatter going to be what they use first. Will catch 2 or 3 is the good thing, and they'll get 2 limbs off of it with the Fire Strike and the Charge Pop, also falling to Thespian, who just punches him in the face as Zen. Oh, that is such a demoralizing thing to happen as a main tank to go down to a support like that. And now they're pushed up towards where the spawn is for Natrix and for Sinker. Transcendence aggressively to get back into this fight. Sinker doesn't have the grab, but will be able to use it afterwards once they build it up. Already to 85% for that. Sinker into this fight, still throwing out so much damage, is built up to that grab again, but they're not even going to need it. Transcendence will keep everybody alive. They throw it out anyways to catch the last few players left alive. Whiskers couldn't eat it, and now everybody gets eliminated. Legend coming back in on the Doomfist to stall, but no avail to that. So they will capture this on the side of Horizon Zephyr. Massive time bank.
Massive time bank indeed. And that is going to be over 4 minutes to be able to, defend or just attack this point when and if it comes down to a round 3 and 4. But now the sides are swapped. There was just if we just talk about and break down exactly what happened for Horizon Zephyr, they were able to get the ball rolling and just keep up that momentum. They had so much pressure rolling into the Streets phase, just because of that early pick that they ended up getting on, the Lucio on GCU. So they were just kind of able to just snowball that pressure there and cap. That was monumental time.
Well, it starts off on the first attack that they do. Who are the 2 targets that fall first on the side of GCU? It's Pop and it's Sodi. That's your Reinhardt and that's your Zarya. Those are your damage dealers in a GOATS composition. So if those 2 are gone and you have still 6 on the other side, good luck trying to win that. You don't have a shield to block. You don't have the hammer to swing in with. And then you don't have a high charge Zarya to just output and throw damage in there to build up a grab. And Sinker, I'm pretty sure, lapped Sodi a few times for grabs.
Yeah, that absolutely did, and that was just because Sinker was continuously alive. When you're dead, you're not building charge, right? So that's just what happened on GCU. Is just that the team was just dead. They just didn't have the ability to get that charge up. But Horizon Zephyr now on the defense, gonna see how they handle the pressure coming out from GCU.
It's definitely different playing defensive GOATS than it is offensive GOATS. There's no doubt about that, but you can still try and aggress in as a defensive team, and Spooty combining with Natrix to get that first limb onto Pop. So now you have the main tank down. You're going to have to try and retreat. The good thing here, at the very least for the side of GCU, is they only lost their main tank, didn't give up too much alt charge other than that, so they're not super far behind.
They are not super far behind. It was a good call on the side of GCU to back off when they did. But let's talk about an interesting difference between these 2. There's a Moira on Horizon, and there's a Zen on GCU.
And the Moira will give you a lot more healing is the one thing, but more utility coming out on the other end. But it doesn't matter if you have more utility or not if everybody's falling in the fight. So you just completely get obliterated again. Just trying to keep yourselves up a little bit better. So that Moira goats, that OG goat still, can work if you play it right.
It absolutely can, and the reason why it's working so well is look at the tight corridor that Horizon Zephyr is engaging from, and they're micro positioning so well that Moira is seeing the value that it needs to.
The first rule of goats is always stay together, makes it really good for a Moira, and then if you throw a Graviton Surge and let her just throw her Coalescence and her attack ball in, that's a bunch of damage that will come through with your Reinhardt, D.Va, and Zarya, so a massive wipe. 2 ultimates committed and 4 left to go here with 2:16 left on the clock for this attack.
Now you're just seeing GCU try to get as many ultimates online as possible, but yeah, that's a lot of damage.
Look at Atrix, they haven't spotted him. He comes in with the charge. Oh, he gets spotted out.
No.
But his Earth Shatter will still find Paydirt. It's the only thing. Pop couldn't get the shield up. Good sound barrier, though. Keep everybody alive. Natrix back by his team. Self-destruct in. Finds too aggressive of a Sodi, but still got that self-destruct into the grab. So it looks like they're going to be able to stop this defense in its tracks now finally, but it took so long to do it. A lot of ultimates got thrown in there by either side, so you sort of have the ult economy reset too.
Yeah, that ult economy is going to reset just a little bit there. Both of these teams utilizing so much to be able to try to seal out that fight. GCU Esports, though, able to get that point in the nick of time. Whiskers are,
not going to work out too well is the only thing here, Necra. They have to go back into their spawn. Ninja Cat trying to escape away. Does it work? What happened there when it looked like you finally had some momentum being gained for GCU?
I think Horizon Natrix is just able to get more aggressive with the support that he's getting from his team. So you're seeing him have this battle against Pop, but coming out on top there.
Have the switch over to the Zen Goats too, so now he's able to really throw damage into whoever ends up getting a Discord Orb on. It's massive shattered, then the grab in to ensure that they don't let those players escape. Sodi can't even get into their spawn. This has taken me back here. This is some things we used to see from a team that, some people may remember that Sinatra used to be on in Selfless.
Yeah. This is just aggressive style of play coming out from Horizon Zephyr. They just want to be able to eat as much time off the clock as possible, which is why they're taking this forward positioning here.
Still in this position, stopping this cart. Rally is out on either side. Remember now, the armor doesn't stay on for as long as it used to, is one thing to point out. Sinker winning early on in this fight. Their counter shatter, though, coming through. Maybe gives them an opportunity to regress back in, but they're not finding any elimination, so they're going to have to go back into their spawn, and look at this again. It's like we're seeing Selfless all over again from Horizon Zephyr.
Oh man, what do you do if you're GCU? I think is what you think about in this situation. I think it's use ultimate, set that pace of the fight. Try to get your ults out before Horizon is. I do like how they're engaging this point though, but I think they're taking a lot of damage before they actually end up getting into the engagement from where they're taking it from.
So the cart back where they are now. Pop looking for an opportunity. Grab coming out, and it's pretty big. Self-destruct is thrown in on the other side. It's able to be blocked, though, by Natrix. His shield does just enough to make sure everybody stays alive, and then finds a pin. Self-destruct in. Barrier lost for Pop. So now, if they have another ult they want to follow up on afterwards, they can from Natrix. Sodi, though, in that back line, able to get clutch, and then the Earth Shatter comes out, and it's massive. Doesn't matter that sound barrier was used. Ninja Cat able to escape with their life, but their team has to regroup again, and players are getting caught while they're in their own spawn.
Oh my goodness, this is just brutal right now. You're going to see that Whiskers actually, because of the DMEC there, is going to have to swap off, lose all of that ultimate charge, and swap back to the D.Va. That was going to be an ultimate that would potentially come online for the end of this fight. This might be the last fight here, depending on how long it takes for GCU to actually regroup. But Horizon Zephyr knows exactly what they want to do here. here.
Rally going to be the first thing used. Stinker gets stunned out at the beginning of this fight. Still able to stay alive, though, backing up, giving up some space now, just making sure that they aren't going to make any mistakes. Earth Shatter coming out, and it catches almost everybody. Charge in, but it finds the Ryan and Natrix. So they have that early elimination. They can start really moving through this Streets phase finally. Possibly, if they can just take care of these last few players. But, of course, they're just going to stall on cart is the good thing. So they'll have time to regroup here for another defense. So far, the cart has to go because of how far they were held back.
I know that forward positioning is exactly the game plan that Horizon Zephyr was going for. Now that the cart is starting to wind through the streets of Kings Row, Horizon Zephyr might actually have 2 chances to be able to touch depending on when they get there. But it is overtime, Labosco. Time is ticking down for both of these teams, and Horizon Zephyr has a lot of sustain here going into this next fight. They just need to get their high-value ultimates online.
And they throw out their grab at the start, forces out the Transcendence on the other end, into with the Earth Shatter as well to make sure they can keep throwing it into Pop. Self-destructs, though, not going to find enough value for the team, though, in GCU, but everything going according to plan for the team in Horizon. Zephyr just have Ninja Cat on the cart to get off using that sound barrier, but can't get back, was body blocked, and Horizon Zephyr will win this one in dominant fashion on Kings Row, but it was still hard fought for, especially when you look at that GCU Route 66 map that they had. But Horizon Zephyr showing that they know how to play this GOATS comp really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of teams have been practicing, though, and it's possible that GCU is just better at using DPS heroes, because that's what Overwatch used to be, and it turned into this tank support meta that we know as GOATs. So we just saw them. I mean, we saw this go back and forth. GCU looked incredibly dominant on Route 66, Horizon very dominant on Kings Row. It was a well-fought match for both teams.
Without a doubt. And of course, now we get to bring back in our host here in Tugboat to Nekra to kind of take us through here as we kind of get in between both of these matches. But, Tugboat wasn't too bad of a start here for Horizon Zephyr. They get a 2-1 win.
Yeah, not too bad indeed. A match. Wow, just a back and forth through and through. I think you guys mentioned just need a little bit of warm up, right? And then both of these teams just absolutely went at it. GCU taking one, other team taking one, Horizon taking it in the end, 2-1, like you said. Just some quintessential great Overwatch. I love it. Got a couple questions here for you guys. Labosco, I'll go with you first. So, you guys talked about this plenty, of course. We saw the quad DPS on Route C6, initially just on defense, but on the other attack on both sides. Why do we see that there on Route C6 so frequently?
Well, on Route 66, the reason you see it more than other compositions is just the way the map is constructed. It's a very kind of winding map. There's a lot of areas for DPS players to go on flanks. There's a lot of openings and opportunities. You saw it was kind of really spread out just because of how that map works, especially when you talk about second point, where you just have so many different avenues for a Tracer or a Sombra to come around. You have a lot of sight lines as well for your snipers to try and play too. So you have your snipers putting pressure from one side, then you have your flankers dealing pressure from the other angles as well. And then, of course, you have a Wrecking Ball or a Winston or whatever tank that you're going to throw in your composition that throws things in from the front. There's just too much to focus on with a quad DPS or triple DPS composition. So that's why you see those sort of style of compositions. Not only that, you can force out cooldowns from the other team and then just deal more damage and deal with them after they've wasted their cooldowns. And even if you don't get the pick, somebody else on your team can make that one happen. So that's why you see these sort of style of compositions, just because the map really plays out well for it. Conversely, where you look at Kings Row, where it's a little bit more narrow, there's not as much flanking that can potentially happen on the map. Sure, there is on Streets phase a little bit, but Streets phase is so short that there's not as much opportunity. That's why you see GOATS be the more dominant composition there. And then, of course, when you talk about our first map and Control in Nepal, you have a little bit of variety that you can throw out on the 3 different maps that you can see. We didn't see all 3, of course, Tugboat, but when you just look at how these maps are constructed, that's what the way that Overwatch is going. Obviously, we know it's probably the strongest comp in GOATS, but it is super map dependent as well, because there are certain compositions. Think about Nimbani with a lot of high ground, where GOATS doesn't work as well because of what's available on the map that's what teams are doing for the most part now, and have been for a while, is really going based on map. Goats being at least weekend has made that a little bit more seen, more visible.
Yeah. The vertical positioning mattering more. The long sight lines. We saw triple snipers tonight, even right between the Ash, Hanzo, Widows. Yeah, lots of really quick
Mhm.
damage.
Yeah,
So
if you consider the reflex scope for sniper, yeah, definitely.
yeah, we'll count it. They can get big old headshots, one shot people. We'll
Right.
count it. We'll count it. And of course, they did play the Super McCree for a while too. Another hit scan. I think that was Sinker going back and forth here. So here, question here for Necra. Um, Fair was played very early, both Nepal and Route 66, and we saw I think a 3K on Nepal, 2K quick on Route 66, just on the first points. Why did the Fair succeed there so much?
So the fair succeeded because it ended up with a lot of support from the rest of its team. Not only did you have the tanks that were providing the space for Farah to be able to spam that free damage, but you also had the other DPS in that Widowmaker that was doing so much work in tandem with that. So you just had this amazing crossfire of those rockets going in, the snipes going in,
Pipe
and it
bombs
was just
too.
yeah, it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
the dynamite and whatnot for the damage over time. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep, the Ash too, correct. Yep. So I forget when they made the switch to the Ash, but I'm just enjoying the fact that we're getting to see Ash. I think she's a fun character to play, and has a lot of potential in the game. And Dynamite, I know at first people were not too high on it, but that damage that it can put out over a consistent amount of time is a little bit more than people may realize. I mean, I've seen some Dynamites where if you hit everybody like in a goats composition, if you can land a really good dynamite, it's going to deal a ton of damage, and you're going to build up bobs super fast. So it's super cool to kind of see how things are evolving here early on. Obviously, we haven't seen the Overwatch League teams give us their opinions on what they think the meta is sort of shaping out to be, but I love the experimentation, and I think Route 66 is where we saw the most here today too.
100%. Quad DPS, triple DPS, Pharaohs up in the sky, snipers down bottom. We talked a little bit about, and that really is the mark of a good Overwatch team: communicating and switching based on what the other team is picking. Straight up, that is a pure Overwatch right there.
And I know
Um,
that Zephyr lost. I just want to say this real fast. I know they lost Route 66, but to me, it felt like they were experimenting with things a lot more on 66 than on any of the other maps because of how many switches they made, especially on streets. It felt like they were trying different things. So I think one thing to point out about these weeklies is that it's really nice for teams to sort of get a little bit more of a real sort of practice experience than you would get even in a scrim.
Okay. So while it is competitive, still being able to try stuff out.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, even maybe ditching a little bit of a little to your comboing one thing with the next to try and try something new. I
Yeah,
love that.
think about it this way. It's not open division where every win matters. You lose one AG weekly. Well, there's still another AG weekly down the road that
Always,
you
yeah.
can try a win. So I think that's sort of the way that teams look at something like this a little bit more, is where they get the best of both worlds. They get a competitive environment, and they get to try some things out that maybe they wouldn't normally get to try out.
Yeah. The Necro, I think we're on like 138 now, right? Anybody
138 or
remember or something like
139.
that?
I
It
mean,
is.
like, I think we lost count of the numbers because of the fact that we are going into these series. Well,
Yeah.
not only because we're far up there, but because we're going into these invitational style tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as of 2019, and yeah, just speak on that a little bit. Of course, yeah, in AG weeklies past, we have just kind of been like kind of one off. Rounds of one, going all the way up. A lot of bragging rights. January we had a little bit of cash going back and forth, and we just kind of decided that that style of having a month long bracketing with the last weekend having a little more action will be better. Um, yeah. So I had one more question here, maybe for both of you guys. You mentioned King Road Goats. Well, we obviously saw it tonight, 100% correct. But why is that? Especially on first point, it was very dominant back and forth, and then when it switched, it was just instant, right?
Yeah, I just feel like that Horizon Zephyr just had such a much better grasp of how to play goats than GCU, and maybe GCU doesn't have as much time together as Zephyr. Zephyr's a team that's been around for a little bit. They were an open division team as well. So there's a lot more experience and time together, especially through this time of GOATs where we know that team play is so important. So I think that's sort of maybe just the thing here. By the way, it is number 138. You can go check the Battlefy, and that'll tell you right there that it's number 138. So if you're not sure,
as regular as the sun rising in the morning.
yeah. So
So
there's
we're
a
gonna
lot
go
of them, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back with you guys in just a little bit with Horizon Zephyr still, and then we'll have Amplify Gaming taking them on the next best of three. We'll be back in just a little bit, guys. And we are back, esports fans, here with the AG Weekly. First week of this February qualifier, not January. January is over. I am FBI Tugboat. With me producing away is Chip Skylark. Got Labosco and Necra. Casters, how are we doing tonight?
Try not to lose my voice, but doing pretty good, at least here early on. We get to see now Horizon Zephyr and Amplified Gaming as our next matchup in this February qualifier of AG Weekly. So a little interesting thing on the team that we're going to see Horizon Zephyr here play in Amplified Gaming. If you want to tell those who are watching Necro about, maybe some things they don't know about Amplify.
Oh yeah. So actually we've got some family ties here from the Mint cast to Amplify Gaming. No bias here on desk. But we are super excited to announce that Possible is the assistant coach for Amplify Gaming, and Swan, another caster that we work with, is their video editor. So congratulations to our Mint production family for getting a spot with a tier 3 team. I'm really excited to see how much work they've put into this team, because it's been a lot. We actually haven't seen them for a while. So this is just the fruits of their labor here.
The sky's the limit.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry about that.
I was just saying the sky's the limit, man. Tier 3 today, Overwatch League tomorrow, right?
Yes, entirely possible for both Possible and Swan. I'm curious to see any of the editing that could happen here in the future. Maybe they'll do some cool highlight videos where they show off all of their DPS that they might be running here with the way things are going. But just looking at how things are going now, Horizon Zephyr looks like a really difficult team to beat.
They really do.
They're also warmed up too, right? I mean, there's a lot to be said for that.
Mm-hmm. Both of these teams are Amplify Gaming with a 2-0 victory over 5280 Red on the very first round of tonight. So they're ready. They're a little rested too, which is really nice. So they're going to come in with just a little bit of an edge here in terms of being kind of rested mechanically. And Horizon Zephyr coming in strong off of that 2-1 victory over GCU Esports. So they're warm. Absolutely.
Did Amplify win 2-0? I think you might have said that. I might have missed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. Oh, okay. So like you said, had a little bit of time. Interesting. So Watchpoint Gibraltar first. I'll let you guys start your predictions, then go on into the game.
I'm gonna have to go with Horizon Zephyr here. Amplify Gaming, I just don't know enough about, and also, of course, it's got our boys in Swan and Pulsable, but still got to go with the team that I've seen more of and just know a little bit more about in Horizon Zephyr.
They get the highlight, right? The spotlight right now with the casting going on from
right.
the last one. So, Necro, any predictions here?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I'm gonna go with Amplify Gaming. I think that the staff has pumped so much energy into this team, and I know just like from reading their Twitter feed that they are so excited to show the world what they have got here. So this is gonna be an amazing match between these two teams. That's all I've got to say.
Excited indeed. We'll be getting this started in just a second, but I guess team comps, we could talk about that or what predictions are.
Well, seeing as we're going to Watchpoint Gibraltar, I expect something maybe more Winston-centric. There's a little bit more high ground that you have to deal with. We could see some snipers here. It's always a possibility. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking as far as what I see, Necra.
Yeah, I Winston-centric for sure. I like the way that you put that, just because there's so much high ground to be able to play with. Maybe some Hammond as well. I've seen some really interesting tech coming out from Wrecking Balls with that high ground, so excited to see what we see from main tanks.
And now we get to load into the map here too. And now we'll get to see what exactly might end up happening. Horizon Zephyr will be the defensive team first. In the red will be that team that we were talking so much about that is going to have their opportunities to sort of prove themselves in their AG Weekly in Amplify Gaming. And, as far as this team, obviously we know a few of the staff members here, but talk to us about these players that we maybe should be looking for on Amplify. If there's anyone in particular that you think really is a standout.
Okay, so I've actually seen Koa 3K play before. So they really are a standout hit scan. They're not called 3K for nothing. They try. I know that Amplify tries to play around their strong suits. So seeing Koa pick the Widowmaker, I expect that Cookie Cat and Specs are going to try to create as much space as possible. But Horizon Zephyr is not going to let them get that easily. They're going to start out with a dive composition. They're going to have Sinker on that Widow as well. So expect some good 1v1s. Expect some good high ground control from both of these teams.
So I think one thing to consider here is you can trust all that information because we got some insiders for that side of Amplify Gaming. But here we see the Widowmaker on one side along with the triple support and the tanks and the Widowmaker. So they are going heavily into the Widowmaker, getting some picks and Sinker on the other side. Widowmaker, Ana, and they're going with Genji as well. So Nano Boost or Blade will be the combo that they'll be able to have for the side of Amplify Gaming. They're already starting to go through Car Wash here down below is the nice thing. Kind of getting through that a little bit easy, just the way that this comp is set up for Horizon Zephyr. They're allowed to do that. And a good start for the offense is the Widowmaker will find the pick onto Clutch. So, and then Specs will eliminate Natrix. So not going the way that you would want if you're Horizon Zephyr. Spooty does manage to eliminate the Widowmaker, but that cart just still continuing the roll. Spooty now coming back to try and stall it out, but not going to be enough here. It will continue to roll as Cookie Cat. Plenty of damage with that Tickle Cannon or Tesla Cannon, whatever you want to call it.
Tickle Cannon, just tickling everybody to death. But let's not not give credit to what Shadow is doing on that Genji as well. Working very well with that front tank line. I liked what Horizon Zephyr started with, which was that Brigida triple DP, triple support defensive composition with the dive. But that Brigida got picked so quickly that they weren't really able to get the utility that they needed to from having that Brigida helping maintain that high ground advantage. So now we're going to see a whole swap. I guess they agree. They agree with us here at the desk that Brigida's just not working. So we're going to see a Sombra and an Ana now. So 2-2-2 coming out from Horizon.
Especially when you lose your head so early on into a fight like the Brig did last time. But they now have some ultimates here on the offense to try and work with. Cookie Cat does get hacked while in that primal raging form, but that's okay because you're still able to throw out tons of damage. And then when you have Shadow who's cutting and slicing through on the blade, won't even matter. You do have to just take a little bit care of your back line, though. They do come back after they dive in for a little bit of peel, and that card is starting to go, and you have behind the Tracer and the Winston, but they're leaving the card. They got to get back. Almost didn't get back in time. The Pulse Bomb will get Specs out of mech. Didn't use the ultimate here. Going to make sure to save that for the next time that they come through. The defense starting to regroup to try and get on and stall, and it looks like it's starting to work. They do have the closer spawn advantage as well. Self-destruct doesn't find anything, and now the offense, though, they're still having too much support, and those tanks dealing out a little bit too much damage as they will eventually get this one. Spooty and the Tracer, the only ones left alive, and Sinker, not going to be enough.
No, not going to be enough, but let's talk about the positioning that we're seeing from the Ana coming out from Amplify. That one lance is doing so much to be able to heal the team from afar and just make sure that cart continues to roll. But Horizon Zephyr is going to be able to come back with a lot in their pocket. They have the EMP, they are going to have a nano boost, and they have the sound. They're going to have a lot. Labasco, they're coming up on 5 ultimates right now. I don't want to name each one, but that's a lot to be able to kind of take back this defense. Just gotta watch out for that blade.
Well, they gotta watch out for the EMP on the other side, and it hits 5 targets. That's going to allow for the defense to stabilize. All it takes is one ult, and that's all they needed. So now the offense will have to sort of regroup here, but they still have 4 minutes to try and complete this attack. Is the nice thing on the on watch point.
Oh yeah, so nice. And Horizon Zephyr though, they're gonna be able to give a lot in terms of a fight for Amplify Gaming. We're gonna see Clutch actually swap out the Sombra now, knowing that this is gonna be a little bit more brawly. Move over to the Brigida. They're engaging now.
Yeah, I don't have to worry anymore about the Widowmaker, so we'll see if that Widow does come back out because of the swap to Brig. Clutch will have to use the shield to make sure they stay alive through that ultimate, and now they'll have the nano boost come on to Sinker here, who goes onto the back line, now uses the recall, make sure that they stay alive, looking for another target to aggress onto, has to now just move away, but they're still keeping control of this cart.
That was an unstoppable Tracer, that's for sure. But you know, now Sinker is gonna be able to have that pulse bomb up and ready to go. That's double bomb coming out from Horizon Zephyr. Ooh, but that nano blade.
Not finding anything with the initial dash, but they do eliminate Stinker at the start. So the Tracer on the flank is already gone. The rest of those DPS players and the supports that can get up there in the Lucio coming through, and that cart will slowly start to cruise around into that final area. You have swaps coming out here at the end. Sinker going over to the Zarya. Looks like they're going to go to a tank-heavy composition here to try and regroup onto this one, but Sinker gets caught out. They didn't regroup quick enough as a team, and that cart's going to start again as soon as they can take Natrix down and Spooty.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be this bomb might spell disaster here.
Doesn't find any pay dirt is the only thing. Clutch just swinging away, praying that they can stall for as long as possible, that they can get a full 6 regroup. Oh, that's a really good anti-nade to maybe turn this around, but Thespian is going to lose their life to the pulse bomb, so there's still a chance for the offense. But with players spread out, it's just a matter of finding those picks. Primal Rage will force players off the map, though. Goodbye, Brigitte. Not able to stay alive as Clutch. Morbid coming through with that sound barrier, but it's a little late. And the Nano Boost doesn't care if there's the sound barrier in. It's going to get all the damage out. Nature's throwing those mines on, but he's the only one left alive. Has to stall for as long as possible. 2:02 left on the clock. Brigitte back in, and Clutch not going to be enough. Just that little bit of distance that's left, and the respawner's still coming back in strong, though, for the side of Horizon Zephyr. That is a monumental effort that they're finally starting to turn around. Self-destruct on the cart to try and clear it off, but there's a blizzard in the way.